All right. Hello, hello. Hey, Amy, before we start, oh, okay, let's see. I think we can hear me, right? I had to
Yeah, I can,
unplug my, okay, sweet. I
I can
was,
hear you.
was a little nervous about that. I had to
Mm.
unplug my microphone.
Oh,
Yeah, I did my first podcast for the Prize Inside again.
oh, good
So,
for you.
since we were doing this stuff, I was like, well, I can do a little prep. It all goes together. So,
Yeah,
so that'll be pretty cool. I'll try to put it into the Facebook chat on like how to do that. But you just go on the Prize Inside and you'll see it on pretty much every podcast. If you got like Spotify or iTunes, the only one I'm a little confused on is iTunes. So we'll have to see. It's different than it used to be. It's
yeah,
easier than it used to be, I think. But we'll have to see. But yeah, so that's kind of fun. And that one, we're gonna go in. Those are where I get to do the interviews because it's a lot easier than picking like a Sunday night at 8 and doing
yeah,
something live, right? So, and we may actually change like how we do the streaming part where it's not a Zoom link necessarily. We might switch it out of Zoom into just Restream, which I think you were with me before when we did that. That way
yeah,
we can see the chats in real time, which would be really fun, and we
yeah.
can do of different ones that way. So yeah, so that's where I think we're getting there with this stuff. So it'll be pretty cool. Sadie, hello.
Can you wave? Can you say hi?
Gonna say nothing. She just fell off. Her
Yeah.
phone crashed. It's crazy. I
Uh,
know all the summer stuff.
oh man,
It's
it's
a
just
big
started.
school.
Yeah.
Big school. I know it's coming. It's coming. So, so tonight's going to be interesting because we're going to go back for a little bit into like the principles of chiropractic so we can cover them all.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do like three or four like herbal ones and then add one of the principles in just to make sure
Yeah.
that we get them all in. So tonight's not going to be a oh PowerPoint or anything like that, like what we usually do. But we'll walk through that and then see if you guys have any questions. So my first one is our info of this week. So so there is an article just out on a really good guy on how to detox, right? So he did a whole study on how to detox the body. There's over a German study did there's about 200 different chemicals that could potentially be toxins within the body. And so they were going after them, about 200 different ones a person can individually have in their body at one time.
Wow.
So yeah, and we won't even know about it. So the two major ones were there was two, one called glyphosate and aluminum. So glyphosate is from like herbicides, things that are out there. Let's say shoot, like, oh well, around me I got lots of farming around and those kind of things. And aluminum, I'm not sure where that comes from. I'm sure it's from all kinds of stuff, like probably, waters and whatever, like different containers and stuff. So those are the two major ones that they are finding the most toxins with. And holistically, we know all of them probably have a major thing in there. So what they say scientifically, there could be a lot more. There's also ones called fat soluble toxins. And really, the stuff that I'm learning tonight is not necessarily what those toxins are, what they're named, and all those kind of things, but what can we do about it? So for the glyphosate, this article recommends glycine. Glycine's a amino acid. that you can get in a powder form. I guess it's like sweet. And I'm actually going to get some after this article to just try it. And so you take about 4 grams twice a day of this glycine powder, and you can add it to your like protein shake or whatever you do during the day. And that could help a lot with the detoxification pathway. And then aluminum. Aluminum is you usually use, it's kind of funny because one of the things you see is citric acid, cilantro, and apple cider vinegar could actually do that as well. So that's pretty sweet. So all those, not only is the apple cider vinegar good for a lot of other stuff, but it also detoxes you. Fat soluble toxins. The fat soluble toxins are a lot. There's a lot out there, but what they're recommending is something that's interesting. They have so a sauna could do it. So sweat out those toxins, which makes sense to a lot of us just in general. But a lot of the different algae. So like in Japan, tons of different algae that they use as a staple. Um, chlorella, brown algae, and then those are the two of the algae that you can use. And then silica and zeolite. Silica and zeolite are two different ones. Zeolite are two different ones that help with the fat soluble toxins. So understand that there's a ton of stuff out there and it's probably worth us doing. Okay. And so the other one is there was a huge one on superfoods. So this is the one of Japanese. So Japanese have known like kelp and seaweed has been a superfood for a long, long time. Us in the Western world have not done that as much, but so there's lots of different names to the different seafood or what is it called? Seaweed stuff. Kelp, nori, kombu, wakame have huge nutritional diversity. So if you can figure out a way to put that into your foods, that will be fantastic. So those are those. All right, that's
Cool.
what I got this week. Any questions on those, Amy?
Nope.
All right, sweet. All right, so we're gonna go after this, and we're gonna talk about. Well, actually, you guys don't even need my share screen actually this time, so we don't even have to do that. We're just gonna talk because I didn't put together necessarily a PowerPoint this time.
Oh,
So it's one of those where we're just gonna walk through it and then see if we like this way. If we want other notes, we could do that, like
okay.
next time. I was
Yeah.
thinking this might be a good way just because I've done this with a couple of the other principals and it worked pretty good.
Yeah. We'll try it.
So this one, well, go ahead.
So we'll try it.
Yeah, we'll try it and see how we like it. So I could put my notes up here. It wouldn't be that bad. We could do that. Let's do that. Let's try that with the beginning of it. And then if it's dumb, then we'll pull it off. All right. Okay. So principle number 3 is one of my favorites because it opens the door to so many others. So principle 1 and 2, you got to remember we talked about universal innate intelligence. A lot of times with these different principles, it's going to bring up different things. So this is the first time we talk about that intelligence being within the physical. So what it is it's basically this. Principle 3 is defined or is the union of intelligence and matter. Life is necessarily the union of intelligence and matter. So seems simple, absolutely simple. However, what it's showing you is that the physical matter that we have in our bodies has intelligence. And so that's sometimes a hard pill to swallow when we're talking at the cellular level. Like when we look through a microscope and we see this cell, sometimes it's hard to believe that this thing has its own actual intelligence. And so this is where, and you're talking, this is, written in the 1890 something, 1900s. So to have the knowledge that life is all about the intelligence expressing through that matter, right? Or else you would not need the matter. We'd be all just spiritual, like energies, right? So that's the thing. The matter is the thing that we have to get to there. So what does it mean to our daily lives? Because what we have to understand from here is that this intelligence is supposed to guide us through the matter and give us all we need all the time. But the problem is we don't pay attention that much to this. So what occurs is we're taught that, and I go into that in the podcast today. There's this thing called it's a vitalistic theory of life versus a mechanistic theory of life. The vitalistic one believes that we are this universal and innate intelligence come from a higher being, a higher God, a source that's intelligent. And so those intelligence, kind of think of intelligent design when we talk about that. So vitalistic is saying, okay, we have been created from something perfect. So that perfection that comes down is beyond our capability. From there, we have a starting point. A materialistic view or a mechanistic view believes that we are just lucky to have these parts, and these parts don't really have as much intelligence as we are. It's just they kind of fit together, perfectly. So with that said, it kind of creates a conflict in like who we are, right? Most of us have no problem going, all right, there might be a something bigger than us on this planet that created this uh perfect material, right? The perfect human body. But the problem is we go into medical and we believe and we don't follow those practices. So we go into mechanistic philosophy of this kind of overlooking that intelligence as we go. So what we're going to talk about tonight is how that all interminks. Remember, there's two kinds of intelligences. There's universal intelligence and innate intelligence. Universal is kind of like your environmental intelligence. A good example would be the theory, the gravity on the Earth, the physics of all that. Another universal one is trees sucking in CO2, giving away oxygen. Those different pieces of the universal that allow our innate intelligence to pick up let's say from a tree, we pick up the oxygen and give away CO2. So we're symbiotic in that relationship. So innate intelligence is essentially trying to work within or co-inhabitate with that universal intelligence out there. Blah 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 blah. I know this is like when I get a little too wordy, but I love this stuff. All right. So that's how it all works. So our innate intelligence is the ability to take our matter and intelligently adapt to what are the environment with around us. So we have to go back. So a key to understanding where we are at in the world is to go back to our actual ability to understand it. So when we approach our health in a different way than the the innate intelligence creates and heals the body, then we run into some problems. And so what our job is tonight is to get you kind of in your mindset thinking that way, which will allow you to make good moves when your health is, something that's out there you want to change. Okay. So what we're going to focus on tonight basically is self-awareness. So self-awareness signals are going to be the key to understanding how in the intelligence and the matter connect. That's your signal. That's your extra sense. It's self-awareness is what's happening to the human body. Being self-aware is a major, major step. So what we'll go through right now is like how these kind of things go. So an example of the innate intelligence of our body telling us something is when somebody when we the the ability of our body to say if we're full or we're hungry, right? So that's a self-awareness mechanism that your body, your innate is telling you, am I full? Am I hungry? The innate intelligence uses a fever. So the innate intelligence, what is the body telling us in that situation, right? The innate intelligence is telling us we want to raise this temperature so that our immune system is be able to take out whatever virus, bacteria, whatever is in that body, inherently turning us to, a healthy person. Another good example though, one that's kind of crazy, is the innate intelligence of what happens to your body watching a bloody horror movie, right? That shows you something, a self-awareness to it that allows that the endorphins and the adrenals to go a little crazier. And so, some people struggle with their health, and maybe the addiction to horror movies or those kind of things. And the reason that happens, my favorite that I see all the time right now is video games. So video games are so adrenaline focused now that a lot of times you see some altered matter because of it. A good example is and I'm gonna say it, but my kids that play very high intensity video games, it's like real life. And so what happens is they're in such a high intense situation, anytime they eat or do anything, they start packing on the pounds because they're in a survival mode, right? So these kids get a little bigger than they should be. You're storing extra storage fat because you think the world's going to end because you're playing an apocalypse movie, or apocalypse video game. And so that can be a thing. The innate intelligence of eating something that doesn't taste right. So another one, a weird one for me, is there certain protein bars in like GNC and all of us have something like this, but I literally cannot eat one of those bars from certain companies. It is the weirdest thing. I cannot like even down it, which is strange. I've never understood what that ability is, but I just don't question it. And I'm like, okay, apparently that's not for me. Uh, innate intelligence, you lifting something incorrectly. That happens all the time. Your body kind of resets you. I was lifting a big old boulder to finish up one of my herbal places. That was pretty cool, but the problem was like I knew that was not the way to lift that. So I tried to not lift it that way, but my brain decided I was gonna, and I overrode that and then screwed myself up a little bit. But that was a few months ago. I was like, that was stupid. I could have just rolled that sucker. Um, the innate intelligence of understanding what our body is trying to say with the symptoms it gives us. That's basically what we have to get good at. To be good at holistic health, we have to start asking the right questions. And that's really what Principle 3 is all about. Once we understand that innate intelligence is what drives it, innate intelligence is your intelligence of your body is telling you something. It makes you look at your whole body in a different perspective. And that's why I really, really like these principles a lot, because it really can change your brain, in that situation. A good one, innate intelligence of matter when we have some stressful work ahead of us, right? What is your body doing? What are the reactions to your body and why is it occurring? But those are all really important to understand how the third principle works because it's such a simple thing. The unity of this innate intelligence, basically, and that matter coming together and making sure it's perfect all the time is what life is all about. The biggest thing is how is that intelligence and matter connected? Is there any interference to it? And so that's where chiropractic and the philosophy comes in. Chiropractic comes in with the nervous system as one of the heavier communicators of the human body. We know there's more, there's hormones, but the nervous system is involved in that as well. There's the brain, there's a lot of different ways, but in chiropractic, that communication of that intelligence comes from that nervous system and making sure that the nervous system is correct so that the matter expresses itself like it should. And that's why you see all kinds of cool stuff once you just take that interference away from the system. All right. This intelligence is so powerful that the body will help other, and this is another key point. This intelligence is so good. And so hopefully, is it making sense, Amy, so far? Hopefully.
Yeah, kind of bits and pieces. I kind of circle back to something you said a few sentences ago, and then it kind of starts to make sense.
Okay. Okay. So let's stop there before I go a little bit further. So you got so as we go, the intelligence, right? So what it's saying is every cell of your body has this innate intelligence within it. That intelligence within it is what we have to allow to free range, essentially. So once we allow the intelligence to do what it's supposed to do, that's what we would assume would be perfection. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So like when everything's working perfectly, there's nothing in the way. And that's the problem. There's nothing in the way. And that our entire life is there's shit in the way. Right. So that's one of the problems is there's all these different things that are in the way. Our job, though, in true health is to get rid of all those interferences. And so those interferences or lack of communication makes it for a fuzzy transmission. A good example that I always love is, your TV program, but you're watching an exercise video, right? So you're on there doing this exercise video, you're like a 35-minute exercise video, but then every 5 minutes it kind of blanks out, right? So pretend you're the muscles of the human body and you keep watching your exercise video and what your human wants you to do. But then all of a sudden it gets fuzzy. Like back when me and you were kids, the antenna.
Yeah.
Right. So it'd have the little antenna thing and it would get all fuzzy. And you could still see what's kind of going on. So you kind of assume that's what's happening. Nowadays it's the little circle, like all of a sudden everything stops. So you're just kind of frozen, right? In that spot. Or you can assume what's going on. But that intelligence, that communication, think of the TV essentially, is the intelligence telling the human body what to do. And so, but the communication in between, it has to read something, right? So it has to know how to do it. And that comes from something bigger than us. And that's basically what it comes from. So you have this intelligence that's all around. They know exactly what to do, but they have to have the right communication pathways. You can't have lack of communication from one side to the other. And that's what comes up in this next part. The intelligence of the body is so important that it can actually have, and this is true in all holistic, you can have other organs help other organs. And so this is one of the things with the muscle testing system that I do in the office. We see a lot. So what I mean by that is, let's say your kidneys having communication issues or it's down. We'll do this muscle testing pattern to see what's happening. Well, let's say your kidney doesn't show up, but let's say your heart does, right? Well, eventually we'll find out that the kidney was the communication problem. But in the beginning, the heart was actually helping the kidney out, because that's how intricate the communication system is within your body. All of them are in a cooperative environment that they're trying to work together to make the perfection happen, right? So that's why you can have a person with one kidney, right? How can you have a person lose a kidney? It doesn't make any sense. If everything was material or mechanistic, there's no way that person should be getting rid of the same amount of urine, right? So something has to happen. Something has to develop, like override the system that used to be there. So this intelligence takes over that system. How about this? You see a blockage in a heart. Let's say No one catches that blockage. You can ask any cardiologist on the planet that once that blockage, it's been there a long time, guess what happens? The body builds new arteries around it every single time. And so when they go in, it's actually literally will take the blockage, it's here, and build a new pathway over the top. You can be as old can get, and it's still there. It's pretty amazing. That's why we always say, like, don't, where the pathways are important, but making sure that intelligence is working at its best, because you don't know, right? You don't know necessarily all the health issues that can happen. And so why not have the best health you possibly can? And that's why it's a journey all the time, is to keep this intelligence going all the time. You know, why can you have somebody have 5 blockages in, one heart? Shouldn't they have felt the first one?
Mhm.
Sometimes your body's adapted to all the other ones, right? And then it's kind of a shocker when they're like, man, I got 4 of these bad boys, right? So those are some ideas and some examples of why this intelligence idea is super important. Let's see what else I got. So, yeah. So intelligence and matter are so important to understand that these two areas bring us together true health. So true health is about making sure this communication pattern is perfect throughout whatever we got to do, hormonally, nervous system, mentally, physically, all those things. The perfection of health and vitality would be, in my humble opinion, the union of intelligence matter with no interference. And that is what I think of when you say I am healthy. But the biggest thing is to understand that there's always things to work on, and it's always a journey. So right now let's go through a couple examples of this, and then I'll leave it for any kind of questions, because I know
Okay.
this one is a little more complicated. Promise. I promise I'll go back to nutrition next time.
Complicated is good, makes our brains work a little harder.
Yeah, it's a good thinking point. Like, I just want people to understand that innate intelligence. So, like in your work, Amy, one of the things that's one of the bigger miscommunications in the entire system is scar tissue. So, scar tissue is something that it's present there because of micro injuries that occur over time. That person wasn't self-aware enough to understand that those micro things happened, right?
Yep.
And so why people get off of, like your massage table and go, oh crap, why do I feel this much different? Right. I
Hmm.
mean, it's obvious every time you see it. And
Yeah.
so, for me, I see it every time you work on somebody, but it's the same system that I see when I adjust somebody. So I always know like the right results just looking at someone's eyes almost, because their intelligence is starting to work better, right? So scar tissue is one of my favorites because it's an easy intelligence to understand. You hurt a shoulder when you're 15 years old. Maybe you did aspirins or something, or you just adapted to it because you had to keep going on the sport.
Yep.
That injury keeps going, you adapt to it and you stop throwing the baseball, right? So you got out of it. Now you're not throwing the baseball anymore. So now you're sitting at a desk behind a computer. That scar tissue is still there, interfering with the intelligence of that muscle system. The muscle system's not working right ever, right? Since that time frame. And then you got, man, I don't know why my shoulder hurts anymore. So it works back to that always, right? And so that's why I think this is the most fascinating thing. One of the things I learned in robotics that I love, this one engineer, his name was Nate, and he came in and taught the kids one system, and it really comes in holistic. He said engineers have to think in this thing called the 5 whys. So let's use a shoulder scar tissue for an example. So you got to say, okay, my shoulder hurts. Well, why does your shoulder hurt? Why? Every time I move it a certain way, it hurts. Okay, why does it every time you move a certain way, my shoulder hurts? Or that way, it hurts. Well, I think it feels like there's a muscle thing in there or something. Why every time you move that shoulder, that muscle fires up? Oh yeah. So then we feel around and we go, well, there is some mechanical things going on in there. Well, why is there some mechanical things in there? So that's what is that? Number four, why? So you're like, oh, their T3 vertebrae is all messed up and their nervous system's all janked to the one side. Oh, okay. So if we adjust that, does it help the nervous system communicate better? And then therefore the shoulder works. All right, let's try that. So there's a why. So we do that. Oh, it's still kind of hanging in there. Oh, because when you were a kid, you fell off a bike, fell on that shoulder. Now the mechanics aren't working as perfection as we'd like them to. And so therefore those injuries happen, right? So that's holistic in a nutshell. And once you start doing that in your own mind, like going back and understanding, like the program, right? We talk about the subconscious program all the time. And we can do that with our physical body. And that's what our job is to get rid of all interferences that could possibly be there. So, so hopefully that made sense. I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully it wasn't too confusing, but so you got anything else, Amy? Are you good?
Sorry, I forgot I muted myself.
Oh, good.
Well, no, it was confusing for a minute, but when you stopped and kind of reiterated and changed your words, it made more sense then. But you were saying that when you're approaching holistic health regarding innate intelligence, you got to ask the right questions.
Hmm.
Can you give examples of that? Like, what are you supposed to be asking?
Oh, okay. Good questions are, and well, the five whys. So I would go as deep as you can get on any situation. Headaches is a classic example for me. Headaches is super complex. Uh, the ones that I've had from the highest level. We were just talking about this. I got to bring that up. I got to have her come on at some point. So I have one lady that literally had what they called migraine blindness. Migraine blindness, where if when she started to have a headache, she would actually go blind, and it would be these outer circles that would come all the way to pinholes.
Mm.
I see her now. I see her once a month still. You'll be shocked at who I tell you who it is. She had to go to U of M and Mayo, could not figure it out. We of course started going into the whys, like why is this happening, right? None of the whys that you know in your brain possibly could be there. That's why sometimes you need help from a chiropractor, somebody looking over the whole body as itself, because you might not know why. And that's one of the hardest parts of holistic in general. And
Mhm.
so hers was her vertebrae were so messed up in her upper neck, fighting off the amount of stuff that she put up throughout her life, that that was it. And so as soon as we started adjusting her up her neck, we went from like one of those migraine blindness situations to none in about a year. I mean, it took a long time to totally get it out of there, but it was one of those that me and her laugh about it all the time because she doesn't take anything for it. We're still amazed. I still have all the documentation because on like the like the big doctors going, why, like they were looking at eyes, they were looking at every allergic eye, and those are all good points, right? So especially if somebody's going blind,
Mm.
you know why, right? But
Yeah.
that you have to keep digging and digging and digging until you find the why. And a lot of these medications and a lot of the way we do it, the sick care model, when we are only doing symptomatology, the problem is we never have to go deep and deep into the why it's happening. If I can stop your symptom, but I have no idea why it's occurring, that's one of the biggest faux pas. A good example right now in my world is blood pressure. Like my guys over 50 years old are pretty much on blood pressure medicine. Why? Like what is that? It could be different on each individual, but why aren't we looking deeper? Yes, the blood pressure medicine works and you're below it. That doesn't give me any knowledge, right? It gives me zero. And so what does that do? Like, I don't know. Like what is it? What's the end goal of that if we don't know the why, right? And so those are the kind of things that holistic can really, really do us, those kind of things. But is that a
So
good example?
Yeah. And then the other thing
China.
you were talking about innate intelligence about like if you only have one kidney, do you mean the same for like if you have to get, a lot of people have to have their tonsils taken out, their appendix, their gallbladder, all of that. Like my
Yep.
thought is, okay, well, if you're born with those things, how can you function if they just take them out?
Great question. So in essence, most of those things, they're actually, I don't know. The rumor was they don't take out the tonsils anymore. Pretty sure. I haven't
Yeah.
seen it in a long, long time. Um, in all honesty, none of that has to happen. We just assumed it because they would have issues with it,
Yeah.
right? And so because of those, none of those actually have to occur. Now, what happens when you do take them out? The rest of the human body organs and all those kind of things have to make up for what they were doing.
Yeah.
Gallbladder's a big one that you really would like to have one. If you don't have one, other organs and systems get stressed out, but they can function, they can do the job, right? Because the human body can do it, right? So you'll see kidney transplants and all these kind of cool things. They can literally communicate with another person's kidney within them, right? And work and actually function. You know, you can go with no kidneys, which is weird. That's not a great move, in the sense of you're not functioning at a high level or anything. But there is a ton of stuff. You can function with no kidney, or I'm sorry, one of the two. You can't have both of them gone. That'd be a lot of stress on the system. But if you had one kidney gone, you may never know. That's how good your body is, right?
Hmm.
That happens with the amount of if you ever want to see amazing stories, just like there's podcasts out there. Dr. Emily listens to some cool podcasts. There's this place in your brain. Some people are born with like non parts of sections of their brain and they have no idea. Another lady in her office, I'm gonna interview her for my ordinary, extraordinary. I'm gonna say her name, Mary. That's all I'm gonna tell you. But Mary has half a brain. She still works. She had to have it surgically removed. Um,
What?
uh-huh. Yeah. So she had to learn how to walk again. Um, Massive amount of brain surgery. She still worked for about 5 or 6 years after. She does amazing stuff. And that one reason I'm bringing up the intelligence of the human body is that reaction right there, Amy. Shit's amazing. I'm telling you, this stuff is amazing. And once we figure out and we quit going, oh crap, I got a scoliosis. Oh crap, I got arthritis. Look what
Yeah.
we can do. Look what we can do if we can find the why and work around that why.
Yeah.
You know, that's the coolest part. So
Hmm.
I think you
Wow.
figured out who I was talking about on that one.
I
Mary.
think I'll have to ask you tomorrow, but yeah. Huh. Half a brain. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. She had I think it's 50% of her brain removed because of the cancer that she had. She didn't know she had. And then yeah, didn't see her
Wow.
for a while. And then all of a sudden she came in as happy as normal. If you remember that, Mary. So
Wow. That's,
amazing, amazing individual.
mhm.
And to see it and know what I knew was just profound. And it's all her, right? It's not anything different except for her commitment and will to keep doing that. One reason
Yeah.
they go on hiking trips all over the place for there's a reason, it was to bring all of that back, and that's the beauty of the whole thing. So
Mm. So cool.
I know, so cool. That's why chiropractic's so special to me. It always will be. These holistic ones where you're removing those interferences. And chiropractic is one tool, right? You got the scar tissue thing. It's like people don't even understand what gua sha actually does until. So I'll tell you. So gua sha is this thing that Amy does that removes scar tissue in certain areas, and it's pretty intense. I think it's horrifically painful. No, I'm just
Okay,
kidding.
it can be intense, but in most cases, it provides instant relief
Yeah, it's
and
actually really, really good.
Yeah.
when I first did it, so I'll give you, she's passed away now, but one of my favorite people on the planet, and I'll probably do a podcast on her because she was so fan. Her name is Ann Buffinga. Ann Buffinga was the oldest chiropractor. We're not sure if she's in the United States, but she was the oldest chiropractor, at least in the state of Michigan. She was still practicing chiropractic at 93 years old. And I got lucky enough to be the one she chose to work on her for the last bunch of years. What was so cool was she had all this stuff at her house. So I said, instead of coming to my house and or coming to the office and let's get you over to the your table at home and those kind of things. And we could really work what she wanted to work. And she was the one that the first thing she had me do was the gua sha technique that Amy does. She was sitting there ready to go. And I swear to you, I swear, her thoracics, her between her shoulders where all your ribs are, because she had that done on a regular basis, I swear she was, a 30-year-old back. That's what it felt like because she knew to get rid of those interferences of that scar tissue. And
Hmm.
I know, practice what I preach. I should be doing the same thing. All of us should, right? In that realm, because those little things, you don't have to do it all the time, but man, is it worth getting rid of those interferences throughout there? So,
Neck and shoulders, especially because most people hold their stress there. So, man, if
oh
you
yeah,
can
and
release some
especially
of
the
that
last
tension.
4 or 5 years where everything went like online and COVID crazy, and you had to work from home and all this stuff. We went like, from,
Yeah.
wear and tear. My guys that are working out in the, like all these hard working dudes, the low back situation, same thing, and that's why you bring all these different alternatives that the whole intention, when I look at an alternative therapy, no matter what it is, does it bring the area out of their interference pattern and does it bring like energy to it? And
Hmm.
that's what we offer. Like, and so anything that allows that interference to kind of get better or get gone and improve the communication in cells is what I want to do. So,
Hmm. Yeah, I like that.
yeah.
There was
So,
a there was a big article I get monthly. I don't know what it's called, Massage Monthly magazine or whatever, but it always has lots of cool articles. But this month was a big article about text neck, and it had really great pictures in it showing, the different degrees of your neck and but how many pounds that carries on your spine. We need to have those in all of the rooms because I knew that just from you telling me that over and over again over the years, but
absolutely.
to see the picture again, like the pictures of just the different degrees, I was like, oh yeah, we need to have that in all the rooms and the massage room so people understand what it's doing because they can't see it themselves unless somebody were to
Right.
take a picture, a profile picture of them.
Exactly. And there's a very huge one because if wherever your neck goes, like you said, especially in the neck and shoulders, that if you can figure out all that situation from the neck down, what
Yeah.
happens too is like when your head is back where it's supposed to be over your shoulders, over your hip, you have just relieved your body of so each degree forward of head tilt from your ear being in front of your hip, and you took that degree from your low back all the way up there, each degree forward is 10 pounds. So at one time, and I get adjusted all the time, that kind of thing. I was 14 degrees. That's 140 pounds. So it's 140 pounds extra on your lumbar spine that you're doing, right? So
Hmm.
each degree that you go forward. Now and I'm not even bad. I have terrible ones, probably in the 20s, right?
Hmm.
Some people weigh 150 pounds, but their text neck is 20 degrees. That's 200 pounds. 200
Hmm.
pounds because the force vector is so if you think of like if I'm straight like an arrow, right? You can wobble here and a pole, right? As that pole tips, right? There's a certain point where it is bad. That the pressure on the bottom of that pole is going to be terrible. Kind of like that when that car took off with the telephone pole next to our office there. That was pretty hilarious. That's for another show.
Yeah.
Yeah, literally, this poor car grabbed the like suspension wire from the bottom of the pole. It got hooked to the bottom of the car. She backed into it, heard something, took off, cracked the top of the pole. And a patient comes in and goes, "Man, I'm glad you still have power." I look over there, and there's a whole basically a telephone pole just doing that. That was the amazing thing. The Consumers Energy guys in like 4 hours had a new pole set, all those things. And it was like a half hour out of power.
Wow.
Insane.
Yeah.
Insane the amount of like work that was. I was just more in awe of that. So, but yeah, so that you're totally correct. Those text neck things should be like all over the place.
Hmm.
Gotta write that down actually, because once you see it, you see it.
Yeah.
Then it's
And then you're
there.
more aware of your posture and what but then also we need to offer things to show people what to do to help with that. Like if they're sitting with their tablet having a pillow, so it's up in front of them instead of them looking down and,
Yep.
all
Yep.
those stuff. Yeah.
Well, I can't wait to do it because I got a really good idea for our 1% Drive t-shirts.
Hmm.
It's gonna be good. It's gonna be
Cool.
good. Yeah. All right, Julie, we'll get you on there. If you have any questions, we kind of threw you under the bus there, Julie. We just threw you up there. You got any questions from tonight's confusing array?
It was very interesting. Can you hear me?
I can, I can.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Oh yeah, I always have tons of questions, but I could keep you on for another hour, so I won't ask all of those questions. But the one comment I want to say with the innate ability of our body, only God could have created something like this, that our body knows exactly what to do when we give it the right information. Or
Yeah.
I guess, and then my next question is how can we tell these, I guess I better be nice, the people that keep throwing the horrible things on us to hurt our health? I'm tired of that. I work so hard. We all work so hard to keep our bodies good, but yet you just talked about these 200 chemicals.
Yeah.
Why do we have glyphosate in us? Well, get rid of this Roundup. Why
Yep.
do we have aluminum? Why is aluminum in our baking powder? Why is aluminum in our deodorant when they know it is harmful for us?
Right. And
I'm
I agree.
tired of the
Yes.
companies, the wrong people. They only care about money.
Yep.
Really.
And it's
What
true.
happened? What happened to our world that nobody seems to care except for the almighty dollar?
Right.
Sick
And
of it.
right. I
There's
know.
my, I don't know if it's a complaint or not, but
No, that's
it's
perfect.
very
You're saying
frustrating
what we
when,
all feel. You're saying it
yes,
exactly. You know, what one of the hardest things is watching it happen. What
yes,
I know, what I believe is that once the collective conscious says enough's enough and we start making the moves, like what we're actually all feeling now, right? There's not been a time where a guy can put up a farm stand for his local garden and be sold out like every week. Now it happens all the time, right? It's slow, but we've been duped for a really long time, and all it was about profitability, right? And
yes,
so those things that happen is a lot of times they'll be like, well, we'll put this chemical in because it doesn't show that, there is any adverse side effect to it, but it doesn't say it's good for you either, right?
right.
So back then, the first chemical one is like, and it goes with all the chemicals around the world. They started with, I can bring you up, Julie might remember this, but do you remember thalidomide babies? Do you know what I'm talking
Yes.
about when I say
I
that? Okay.
have a girlfriend whose mother took it, the oldest daughter lived to be 30, and then
Correct.
cancer took her.
Yep. So
Oh yeah,
thalidomide
I'm very
was
aware of that one.
yeah, thalidomide was something that they said pregnant mothers had to have because it was, I can't remember what it was, some protection for something. The
I think it
most
was from like morning sickness, wasn't
yeah,
it?
something like that. So you could something simple said, "Oh, it's fine. It won't be anything bad." The most amount of babies deformed or that pass away with one chemical ever. Like it was like every mother that took it had a very high chance of having something happen. That's why they called them the thalidomide babies. And so those situations hit us so fast. What I feel, and that's one reason I'm doing this tonight, and I will continue to do it, even if I ramble on weird stuff. The collective conscious that's currently happening where people are growing their own food. They're starting to take control of these things. When we allowed it to be controlled by someone else for a profit margin, that's when we got in trouble. And that's what, and we can't blame them. That's what sucks. In a sense, we can be mad. We can, because we'd be like, man, I got duped, but not anymore, right? And that's the hardest part is we have to get to that point where we get to choose something different. And that's gonna, I believe that's the journey. I believe it's the journey that we won't accept those things. Some countries won't let things that we put on our food in at all. And I mean, some different snack foods aren't even
Yeah.
allowed in the
Yep.
can like. Well, I won't use the countries because I don't want to get in trouble. But like,
Mhm.
there's certain countries that absolutely will not let certain snacks and junk into their country at all.
Yep.
Yeah, we allow it, and it blows my mind, but at the same time, is anyone pushing back when they drink their next monster, right? Or
There
uh
are people that are pushing back, but
yes.
some of them get thrown under the bus. They aren't listening. There have been many people in the health field that have gone to Congress going, hey, wait a minute, Roundup is very, very dangerous. And they have presented information. Then
Mhm.
why is it still out there?
Right. That's
Infiltration from within.
yep.
The
And think
person
about
who's making the decision doesn't care about our health. He only cares about his pocketbook. Yeah, it's going to kill him too, which always boggles my brain a little bit. It's hurting you, yet
Mhm.
you're allowing it to hurt everybody. I don't
Right.
get this.
I don't get it either because it's one of those where there are no shortcuts. There's just not. And so that's one of the hardest parts of understanding that we have to get to a point. I was listening to a thing. There's a new medical drug. It allows you to lose weight and those kind of things. It's like an injectable. I won't bring it up too much. Um, but the side effects are astounding. Um,
Yes,
it's
I've heard of it.
shockingly bad. But when you talk to people about this same thing, it's very tough because people will take the chance because of what it does with the weight loss portion of it. Because we've put our brains in a different pattern where um we worry about that stuff so much more than the actual side effects that it will do to your body. And that's a tough go. Like when I watched this guy, he's a whistleblower. He was probably one that helped develop the drug. He's so upset by this whole thing that he didn't know what he was up against, like you're saying. But then he watched the news, and the news had out of all, let's say you had 20 commercials, okay, on the news channel. Out of the 20 commercials, I think 14 or 12 were medical, drug related, right? That tells you it's not about them selling drugs to patients or anything. It's about controlling the media. It's about controlling the news because that's 90%, 80% of their revenue comes from medication. So you think they're going to give a bad news report on a medication? Not when 80% of your income comes from there. You're going to like skip that one a little bit, right? So there's a lot of ways to do this. And that's why we have to keep talking. We have to keep communicating. Speaking of that, Julie, before we end this tonight, I have a place I'm going to send you. Oh my God. We might do the first seminar out. I know we're going to do it. I've already got it in my head. It's going to be end of July, August time frame. We're going to do it either, depends on how big our group gets. I got to ask some stuff. It's either going to be at my house in my cool party barn, or Rachel and I just went to the coolest freaking place for native everything I've ever seen. It's near Hastings. Amy, you must take Sadie. Let me look it up before I
I
stop.
want to go.
Yes, I'm gonna give you this place is crazy. I had never been there. Going in the middle of nowhere. I've thought I've been everywhere near Hastings that I've ever been. Where's it at? Come here. Okay. It's called. Oh. Well, it's off of Cloverdale Road. Come on. Give me the place. Oh, so look up Pierce Cedar Creek Institute. If they allow me, that's where our first online or our courses are going to be.
Okay, what was the whole name?
It's called
Prairie?
Pierce, Pierce.
Got it.
Cedar Creek Institute. It's 850 acres of native plants that they have put throughout the entire thing with walking past everything. This thing was incredible. They had a native plant sale this weekend, and I wanted to see what true Michigan people would like put in their, ground around here. Found some good herbs, some really good like native herbs that are going to be good. There's a few different ones that we're going to be able we're experimenting with to see how they work. But this place it had a classroom, maybe. It was so cool. It was an art museum too. So that was the other thing. Not only did it do all this the native stuff, it had a whole basically bird sanctuary. Think of the bird sanctuary times 4.
Yeah.
But it's all based on native plants. So
Oh, cool.
to go, yeah. Going out there would be worth it. The pressed flower art. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I bet it was beautiful.
That's the kind of stuff I just live for. So
Yep.
it's weird guy with a football, shirt and a hat, but oh my God. They had this woodwork carving, these little birds. They had a whole section. Oh my gosh. Wood carving class, clocks, all kinds of stuff. So anyway, I won't keep you guys very long. Thank you for making this fun. I knew it was going to be a little weird tonight, but we'll get back on our next herbal section too for next time. So I'm pretty pumped. And don't forget, look up the Prize Inside on I'm pretty sure any podcast app will have it. And that's another one that I can't ever stop talking. Amy knows that. So
Yeah.
that's why she has to keep me that way. All right. All right, guys.
That's okay. You can keep talking. I'm okay with that.
That's right.
Well, I'm going
Don't
to
forget,
Italy.
we are definitely having
Okay.
that seminar. All right, guys.
Bye.
Take it easy.